Hello. We are back to answering questions here. Here, let me pull up our question. You know what? You'd think I'd actually show up like prepared for this, but question. This one's coming. This one's coming from my backyard, Philadelphia, PA. Ginny Masso asks. This is a really good question. How do you think that the SAG-AFTRA strike is going to affect voiceover? I'm not in the union, but I want to be, and I'm worried that if I take a job, that I'll be listed as a scab and be blacklisted from the union. Yes, good question, Ginny. That is something that I'm sure is on a lot of people's minds. As far as SAG-AFTRA being on strike. So for those who aren't necessarily aware, SAG-AFTRA is the union that represents Screen Actors Guild, and it also represents voiceover radio personalities. They were two separate unions. They ended up merging years ago, and they're on strike. At least as of the time that I recorded this. This could change. The strike could end at any moment. You never know. If you're not in the union, this still could affect you, though. So it's good. It's good to always keep abreast of the things that are happening in our industry. So the question was, how does this affect voiceover? Well, so the thing is, and I looked this up because I wanted to make sure I was giving the right information, because I was curious about it too. Because I do, through some of my agents, I do get work that is listed as union work, and I do get work that's non-union work. I am SAG eligible. I am union eligible. I am not in the union yet. I haven't booked enough union work that makes it financially. It's not a good financial decision right now. I would love to join the union, but it has to also make financial sense. The advantage of being in SAG-AFTRA, just from purely making an income standpoint, is that usually union work pays better. It uses the collective bargaining agreement. So there's like some minimums that someone would have to pay for it to be a union project. Great resource for that is the Global Voice, or the GVAA rate guide, and I'll put a link into the description. That kind of it's a great resource for figuring out what should your own rates be, because that way you'll be in line with what's already out there and negotiated by the union. But but I do get union auditions for union work, and part of my concern was that would I take an audition and it be in violation of would I be crossing the picket line, in other words, because I don't want to do that. So when I looked this up, actors, it's basically, you can't, if you don't want to cross the picket line, you cannot be involved in a project that is part of the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, which is the AMPTP, which is specifically the group that SAG-AFTRA is striking against. It's also, at least as of the time that I'm recording this, it's also it's the same group that the Writers Guild is striking against, and if I remember, it's also the one that the Directors Guild is going to be going on strike against if they have to end up going on strike. And last I saw, it seemed like it's going to be heading that direction. So basically, if it's a project that's involved with that specific group, the AMPTP, right now, because of the strike, if you're in the union, you cannot work on the project. You can't do promotion for the project. If you are not in the union, yes, technically you could work on a project, but what you would be doing then is called scab work. Scab work is when you're basically doing union work but not in the union, specifically when the union is striking. If you do scab work, you will not be allowed to join SAG. You will not be allowed to join SAG-AFTRA. So if being in the union is something you would like to do one day, and if you're interested in getting the high-paying commercial jobs of being able to do narration for television programs or movies, being able to do a lot of animation work, you would need to be in the union. And if you're not eligible to even join the union, you would not be allowed to do the work. because you cross the picket line that way. So now, what does that mean? Commercials. And I'm looking at when I looked this up, commercials are not affected by the strike. Sponsored content from influencers is not in violation of the strike. Sound recordings, music videos, video games, corporate educational content, broadcast news, television, animation, and audiobooks, and this is according to the official SAG-AFTRA guidance on the subject. So that means that if you're involved in certain projects, you're probably okay. The best thing for you to do is to actually go to the SAG-AFTRA website. I will put that link in the description as well, and see what's what. So as of right now, it seems like it would not affect a lot of voiceover work at this time. Now, that's directly in that if you were to, in that if there's commercials that are being made and you get booked for doing that commercial, you're not in violation of the strike. So directly, no. But here's how we could be affected by the strike. Those commercials are meant to be sponsorship. They are aired. They sell advertising against those television programs, right? So if you're watching television, then you go to the commercial break. Well, that's what pays for the television program. If you're on Hulu, you're watching Hulu, or some of the lower tiered streaming services where you don't have the premium service, and you're seeing some commercials, right? So the commercial itself, you could voice a commercial and it would not be affected by the strike. You would not be crossing. And again, make sure you're checking the website to make sure. Don't just take my word for it. Be doubly careful. But if according to SAG-AFTRA guidance, if it's okay for you to do it, yes, you could do it. But as long as the strike is happening, that means that television shows and movies aren't going to be made. Work has stopped. It means that it could absolutely and very likely will affect the fall television schedule. It's probably going to affect the mid-season, the winter, in January when they launch new shows. It's going to affect that television season. So there's going to be shows that were going to start that are not going to be showing, or they haven't finished shooting, or they're going to have abbreviated seasons. So if there's a lack of content to sell against, that means that they're not going to be able to sell as many commercials. So there might actually be less work in the long tail of it. When we look down the road, we may not see the impact right now, but over the course of the next 6 to 12 months, we might, just because eventually it's going to catch up. And without there being the premium content that is making money for the networks, for the streaming services, it's going to be harder for them to sell ad space, because they're going to have to sell it against either reruns, which doesn't always sell as well, or they're going to have to figure out a way to find new content, and that's going to be really difficult, because now you have the writers and the actors on strike, possibly the directors coming up, and then in September the Teamsters contract is up, and if they go on strike, man, I couldn't even tell you what that's going to do. So that is how, at least in my opinion, how that could affect us in the long run, or at least in the next year, in terms of just there being fewer jobs in this very specific realm. But as far as you being able to take work, it looks like right now that we're not going to be terribly affected by it. As far as being afraid of crossing the line, again, just go to their site, check it out, make sure that you're not doing anything that would put your career in harm's way. Make good decisions. And I, for one, if I am still keeping an eye out, I would not be crossing the picket line. If there was picketing near me, I would be participating, but there's not. So, but there is, I will share solidarity with my brothers and sisters in the union that I hope to be part of one day. But that's that. So that's the question with the, at least again, my opinion on what I think is going to happen. Thank you so much for watching. Please, if you could take a moment, subscribe down below so you could support the channel. If you have any questions, you can absolutely reach out to me via social media at the Saint Brian on both Twitter and Instagram. If you need to book me for voiceover projects, you can get me at voxbrian.com. And if you ever want to work with me for private coaching, for voiceover, to get ready for a demo, for audition help, you can reach out to Edge Studio and they can book my time for coaching purposes. So thank you so much, and thank you for the support for the channel.